Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm joined by some of the finest top laners from Europe. First, in the right corner, we have Alphari, who is very dominating at Worlds, one of the best top laners in my opinion at Worlds. Then in the bottom right corner, we have Vizicsacsi from URL, another one of the greatest top laners in Europe in my opinion. Both are sadly much better than me nowadays. That sucks, but that's how it is. And then in the bottom left corner, we have Bwipo, who is an up-and-coming talent from Europe. He's currently ranked 17, I think it is, on the European ladder, which is absolutely amazing. Today we're gonna make a tier list, and this preseason just happened. It came out very recently, 5 days ago, I believe it is. And we have all been playing a lot. We'll be talking about our experiences and do a tier list based on that. We're gonna cover most of the champions in the top lane, if not all of them, and we'll be giving our opinions on them. We'll be starting out doing it based on win ratios, so we'll go from the highest win ratios to the lowest from the OP.GG of Korea. Alright guys, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Sweet. Let's start with the highest one, Wukong. What do you guys think of Wukong?
Personally, I actually don't know why it's got such a high win rate. I've yet to see a Wukong play top lane, and aside from just lethality and electrocute being strong in lower elos, I don't know why the win rate is that high. I don't think it's that good.
Maybe it's just matchups.
Yes, right.
Like, I don't know. I think he's kind of good against Jayce, for example. Like Teemo's getting picked a lot. I'm pretty sure Wukong's good into Teemo as well. Gangplank has a lot of play as well.
I can personally see it into like squishier matchups as well.
Into like Camille or Gangplank possibly.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times as well. I've actually met him once. I won against him early lane. I think he's pretty weak early lane still, but if he gets through the laning phase in team fights, he starts destroying people with the lethality builds. It's a lot of damage now with the new runes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just because like Jayce, Gangplank, and Teemo are seeing like so much play right now that at least in Korea, that basically people pick Wukong into it, and that's what his low pick rate suggests. It's not like people are just blind picking him. I'm pretty sure they see the good matchup. They're like, yeah, Wukong's pretty good here with the new electrocute and sudden impact, and then you just try and like one shot them at 6 or something stupid and you snowball off of it.
Alright, so where would you guys personally put him on the tier list if you guys had to choose from S to B?
I'd put him B.
I would definitely not put him as.
I would put him B. I think he's more of a cheesy pick. I think if you just respect his burst, then he's not going to be very useful.
Just get Ninja Turbine. I don't think it does much.
I also don't see him working into like the meta tanks right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to gank as well.
I guess we pretty much all agree on a B pick because he's very situational. He can work in some situations, but not good enough for all of them. Let's go to the second champion, Yorick. Have you guys been meeting Yorick, and what do you guys think of him?
I haven't met any, but I have been personally playing it before. So I can see it working as like a lane dominant champion against some matchups, or like most matchups, because I think he's playable into basically everything. So I could definitely see him as like an A tier pick, but I think his team fighting presence later on just falls off a lot.
You go grasp on him?
Yeah, grass probably sounds like the best deal.
I haven't played Yorick since the runes, but before I used to like test him a lot, and I just felt like Trundle was a better version of him, since usually you want to play Yorick against tanks, at least that was what I felt like. I feel like if you play like a Rumble into it or a carry, he's just gonna get destroyed in lane and not be very useful. So I don't think much would have changed since then. I feel like Trundle should still be like a better version of Yorick, but haven't tested it yet myself.
What's interesting is his Q works on towers now, which means that because Trundle obviously doesn't go Shen anymore, or at least generally doesn't do it, which means that he kills sideline towers faster. But other than that, I just have to agree with Alphari here that Trundle just does his job better.
Also, one thing we have to remember is this demolish now. So top laners that are dominant in lane can take towers much faster.
Yep.
Which is actually very strong. But where do you guys put him on the tier list?
I would put him in A tier. Because he has like stronger laning phase, like definitely above Wukong's, and can match most champions. But I wouldn't say like S tier because he's just not providing as much
I would say
other stages of the game.
I'll put him in A as well. Like I think he has like actually a lot of matchups he can go at least even in, and as long as you go even, I think he doesn't have the same teamfight presence as Camille, but I think he can provide the same purpose with the new Q, that he can kill towers ridiculously fast now. But how fast, I don't know. I think I'll put him in A as well.
And I'll put him in A as well, also because of Demolish. Like as you said, he can take towers really fast, and with Demolish you do 400 plus damage very early in the game, so I think he's very, very good at taking towers early. If you get that lead from the gold, it's absolutely incredible. Alright, let's jump down to the next one. We have Maokai. What do you guys think about this beast?
This champ's busted. Like, Aftershock on this champion is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Like the way you beat Maokai, like, I mean, like, how do you even beat Maokai in its current state? Like, I don't even know. Like, this guy all-ins you and he just tanks you. Like, he takes no damage in the first trade, and then by the second trade, I don't even know. He hasn't lost HP because of his passive. Aftershock makes sure that you can't all-in him back. Seems disgusting to me.
Yeah, I would definitely put him like really high as well, because I feel like he can match anyone in lane, and he's way too tanky with the defensive masteries and runes this time. So he has like 800 HP, Doran's shield, some extra healing from the runes. So it's basically you cannot even bully him out of the lane anymore. Looks like probably the strongest one from the top laners.
I don't know if he's the strongest top laner, but he's definitely like a top 3 tank, and tanks are really strong at the moment. So I would agree that he's pretty broken.
I'd say we all basically agree he's S tier.
Yeah.
Also,
Easily.
actually I saw you playing as an Aurelia with Maokai Vizicsacsi, and you were destroying her. I don't know if you remember that game. I've been spectating a bunch of your games, and you just killed her level 1 or 2, I think it was. 1v1.
Yeah, well, basically that matchup is kind of impossible for her, because once you get Bramble West, I think she will just have to ignore you and go for the wave, and Maokai just does whatever he wants.
Yeah. Let's jump down to the next one. We have Sion with a 54% win ratio. What do you guys think of this tank?
Personally, I think it's kind of the same idea as Wukong. Like, I think Sion does pretty well into Jayce, Teemo, and Gangplank specifically, because they don't really have any CC to stop his Q, and it's pretty easy to just like set up ganks on them, and they shouldn't be able to go aggressive on you. So I think it's a byproduct. Like, his win rate is a byproduct of that, but I don't think he's that good. I just think he has good matchups into those champions specifically.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, you can go. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think basically he has like a very dominant laning phase, especially if you go these tanky runes as well. So that's why his win rate might be like higher up. But I think this champion, in terms of like what tanks provide in team fight, is like way below others. So I personally wouldn't consider him that high.
Yeah, I think I'll probably put him B, since I think he's pretty cheesy. That if you kind of have experience playing against him, where you're not gonna like just tank a full Q to the face. I think his laning phase is weaker than other tanks like Maokai, Cho Gath, or Shen. I think he's just worse than them in lane phase and out of lane phase. So I don't really see the purpose of him. He's just worse than other tanks.
So basically, from what I'm getting from you guys is that he's only good against people that are not experienced against playing him. So basically, if you're bad, like if you're lower elo, he should be good, right? Because people don't really know how to avoid the things.
I wouldn't say that, to be honest, for laning phase. I think his laning phase, even if you know how to play against it, if he like constantly can land an E and is maxing E, he's usually gonna be dominant either way. So I think he's just mostly for laning phase, and that's why I would personally put him in like A tier, because I think you can maybe snowball his lane a bit and get ahead through that. But in terms of like split pushing and team fight providing, he's just below the other tanks.
So what's the last say we have? Like, do you guys think he's A or B tier of all?
I'd put him in A. I think it's really hard to go aggressive on Sion if he knows what he's doing. And it's really easy for Sion to set up a gank on your lane. And with how, like, of course, we're talking top lane, but with the jungle champions that are being picked being very snowbally right now, I think if you have a jungler that can like make use out of the fact that Sion is a really easy gank setup, that you can snowball the game pretty hard. So I'd put him A tier.
Fair enough. I would probably put him B tier myself, but I can definitely see that his laning phase is like serviceable in a lot of matchups. And he can also like cheese and just snowball pretty hard by going lethality, stuff like the boss or whatever his name is in high elo.
Personally, I put him B tier as well, but since you guys are all high elo than me, you guys both count higher than mine, so you'll put him in the A tier for now. Alright, let's jump to the next one. Next one we have Pantheon, who is extremely strong with the new runes in my opinion. He's super strong. What do you guys think of this Spartan?
I mean, Ares just broken at the moment, so and like Pantheon's like one of the biggest abusers of this. He definitely got buffed by the runes, and he's even more oppressive than before in laning phase. I'm not sure if I put him in A or B, but like for solo queue, he's like one of the best champions right now, I think. But there are like still picks that can go fine against him early game, like Rumble. He can just spout like Scrap Shield, all his damage, but there are like very few champions that I feel can just like do fine against Pantheon and lane. So I'll put AOS, I guess. Yeah, AOS.
Yeah, I actually saw the game where he played against Rumble. It looked like after Rumble gets Scrap Shield, it basically becomes a hard matchup. But I think that's like only Rumble, and he's good
Yeah, like
into
maybe
the other
Shen as
champs.
well.
I'm not sure. I think
Yeah.
Maokai would just kind of ignore him too, like with his passive healing. And then if you get too aggressive on Maokai, I think you just die, like because you get ganked. I don't see Pantheon poking a Maokai straight out of line. Like maybe if he's like taking every Q for free, but
Yeah, only like in early game you can do something with
yeah,
this
that's what I'm
champion.
saying. I feel like 1 to 5 with Airy, if you can get a lead, you can snowball it really hard with your ulti. But if you just go even in line, I feel like you'll just get outperformed.
Exactly. That's why I would like put him probably A tier, since
Yeah, me too.
it's not too reliable to
So
snowball
basically,
with him.
you all think he's kind of like a situational pick that you can pick into certain champions, and then you can abuse him. And also, if you're a better player, you can abuse him to snowball the game. From what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's. I think Pantheon didn't really change. I still think he's just like you get someone low enough to get him in your kill range, you go for the kill. You get the kill, you're gonna snowball really fucking hard. You don't, and you're gonna be like, well, you're Pantheon, you know, you're still gonna have global pressure, and if you can cheese a few kills against people that don't listen to pings, you're gonna be off well. But people just back off and respect you. And your other lanes aren't winning too hard, so you can't tower dive. I think you're just gonna be stuck being a lane bully in the early game, and just pray to God you can snowball off that.
Alright, fair enough. Let's jump to the next one. We have Malzahar next on the list. He's actually played a fair amount top lane. I played him myself, and I'm really bad Malzahar. It didn't go so well, but I still managed to win the game and actually have a pretty big impact, even though I played really terrible. What do you guys think of this champion?
I think 1v1 it's pretty strong, and they can enable AD mid laners, but it's really easy to gank, and if you fall behind or if you just like play first a tank, you can really easy dive it like 2-man. So I feel like it requires a lot of jungle attention, and you need to have like an AD mid laner for it to really be useful. But I feel it's really situational, but if you can get the right situations, maybe it's good.
Yeah, I feel the same with him, and basically I don't even feel his laning phase is that dominant compared to like other lane bullies. So personally, wouldn't rate him too high. The only like huge upside to the champion is that it provides a lot after the laning phase. But sometimes you would just rather have a tank top laner in your team that can initiate the fights and go in.
I think that's pretty much the consensus. Maybe there's a case to be made for the spellbook that lets you change master summoner spells so that you can potentially fend off some tower dives. I don't know. Can you cheese with ignite? Maybe. Seems all very iffy to me, and he just doesn't have a spot in top line like he does in mid. In mid, he just has a really solid spot right now. I don't see a reason to take him top over mid at any point in his current state.
So where would you guys place him? I assume you guys would only use him as a counter pick if there's some pick he's really good into. If you flex pick him.
You can flex pick him, and I probably put him in the tanks, and you can just push like a Rumble would, and eventually get outscaled 1v1.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd put him B.
I'll put him higher than Wukong, but yeah, probably B as well.
Yeah, same B.
Alright, that's the B for Malzahar. Poor guy. Getting all the way down to the bottom. Let's jump right into the next one. We have Talon on the list. What do you guys think of Talon?
It's Pantheon without a global ult.
And like less of a lane bully, so I guess it's
Yeah.
just weaker version of him.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't see any matchup that he I don't see any matchup that he should get kill pressure in, unless he's running ignite. At which point, you just like kind of ignore him. I don't see him being blind pickable, and as a counter pick, I don't see what matchup you would counter pick him into. So
Yeah.
I just think he's a worse Pantheon.
I agree. I think he's a champion that needs to get kills to snowball, and like late game, mid game, sure he's strong, but 1v1, I feel like he needs Ignite to be like a threat during laning phase, and if you take that, then you're just opening yourself up for, to get camped, and if you fall behind once, then the game's just over, and it's really easy to play against Ignite top, so I think he's too reliant on it, and I think that makes him just too weak.
So none of you guys like Talon at all. Would you guys put him B? I assume so.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even put him
I
on the
would put
tier
him
list.
B.
You wouldn't even put him on tier list?
I don't even think this champion's worth being being played top lane.
Do you guys think we should completely remove him from the tier list? Should he not even deserve a spot?
Nah, I would just put him B tier. I think
it's fine.
in
We can put
sometimes it can just work if you get like a good cheese all in level 2 or something. But other than that, it doesn't have too much potential.
Sure, fuck it, I'll put him on B then.
Right, fair enough, fair enough. Next, we have one of the champions that I know Vizicsacsi truly loves. He's called Shen. Tell us about Shen, Vici.
Yeah, I actually played a fair amount of Shen ever since the rune reworks, and he feels at least the same strong as before, or maybe even stronger. I think the grasp just synergizes really well with him, and he gets also the attack speed that some other champions like Cho Gath, for example, doesn't. I think that's a huge upside to him as well. I basically don't even see that bad matchups for him right now. Even harder ones like Rumble are more playable now because you are tankier, you have more sustain. So I would definitely put him like really high in the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think Shen is solid. Like he was already like pretty blind pickable before, and I think that with champions with that used further, like Jayce and Na getting nerfed, and tanks getting buffed, I think Shen's even stronger now. So, and he's also strong against tanks like Maokai probably. So I'll put him S.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. I'd put him
yeah.
S as well. Second Wind made it so that you can't really poke him out of lane anymore to get the Thorn Shield, and he's always been really fucking obnoxious in all-ins. So he still has that power.
I'll put him as well. I just remember I played a game against Vizicsacsi as Aurelia versus Shen, and I think I died a little too many times and maybe lost the game alone, so he deserves a spot in the S tier for me. Next one we have Singed. Have any of you guys played Singed, yeah?
I've done my fair share of Singed.
What do you think of Singed?
I think he's pretty strong. I think he's in a good spot right now. I think he has several matchups that you want to be picking him into. I think all the tanks, like for example, I think he does well into Maokai and Shen, purely because of how he works, right? Like the proxying, the pushing the waves, kind of locks up the tanks to not be able to do much, and you have all the freedom in the world because they can't really kill you. And with Aerie being so overpowered right now, giving him an option to go into damage, I like him a lot right now. I think he's in a pretty good spot.
I haven't played him myself, but if you go with Aerie, it sounds like a bit that he's too squishy or something. I'm not even sure if the tanks can like let you proxy that early on. I think Shen and Maokai should be able to like push you in early on because they should be quite powerful. And you are also exposed to ganks a bit. So I personally don't like Singed early game, but after level 6 I can definitely see him becoming like this obnoxious proxy beast. That's always annoying to deal with, but that was like the case with him before as well.
Yeah, I don't think Singed really changed this patch. Maybe Aerie gives him like a slight buff to the early game of the Deathfire touch, but I think he still has a problem where you have this timer with Singed where the enemy top lane is just going to outscale, and eventually you're not going to be able to proxy, and your team fighting is going to be pretty weak in comparison as well. He does the same thing as before, where like versus tanks you can pick him, and he will have pressure, and you can like roam mid and go into enemy jungle. But if you don't snowball fast, then he's going to lose. So I'd put him A.
Yeah,
I think he's reasonable, yeah.
Well, that's a fair decision. Fair decision. What do you guys think of the next champion called Rengar in the top lane? I haven't met him at all. I didn't know people played in top lane, but apparently he had 2% pick rate.
More cheese, I guess. Like I think it's just more sudden impact cheesing. Just he one shots you at level 1 or 2 out of the bush, and if that works, he can keep snowballing with a lethality build like Duskblade. But if he doesn't, I feel like not even his ultimate will grant you kills because you don't deal enough damage to one-shot people, and he's really telegraphed from the top line.
I feel like if you don't get it, like you need to snowball really hard with Rengar top, obviously. and you obviously cheese by like standing in a bush level 1 and just all-inning. And if that fails, well then your champ just sucks. You just wasted a game.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see him working into these S tier picks that we already put there. Like he's not gonna one-shot them level 1 or level 2. And they're just gonna outscale him at one point after like the first buy, like after Ninja Tabi or something.
Yep.
Alright, so you guys just think he's some Korean cheese. Do you guys think he deserves a spot on the tier list? And if so, where would you put him?
He would be B if he deserves a
B
spot.
tier.
What does he deserve? One?
I mean, if Talon gets one, Rengar gets one for me, but up to you.
Yeah, he basically can do this cheese against some of the picks, like the more squishy ones that don't run Grasp of the Undying or Aftershock, and possibly get like a kill or two at level 1, 2, and then you can snowball the game from there. So it's basically like the same idea as Talon. So I would just put him in B as well.
Alright, sweet. We put him in B. It's fine. Next one, we have Jarvan, who is a very strong top lane. I think with Electrocute, he can one-shot people very easily later on if he gets enough items. And he can also go tank. Yeah, he does both.
I think you just go grasp on him and just do like you just have a really solid lighting phase on him. I think his team fighting is very strong, always has been, still is. He just has the Cleaver Titanic build he can rely on to still be a threat in team fights. I just think with the new resolve that he can bully even harder in lane if he wants to, but he can be even like more removable. Solid flex pick because in jungle he's ridiculous at the minute as well. I think he's S tier.
I think Jarvan got nerfed from the runes getting changed, since Grasp seems to be the best keystone on him, because all the other ones are pretty bad for laning on him, and he just like pro Grasp and auto attack enemies. But if you go Grasp, you can't take any attack speed or AD on Jarvan. Usually you want to take like 15 AD before, but now you can't do that, and I feel like that's just bad for his laning phase, and everything else kind of change, like stays the same. So I really got like a little bit nerfed this patch. At the same time, other tanks got buffed, so I'd still probably put him S tier since his laning phase is still solid and he can still like do the same thing mid game where you just ARAM and engage, but I don't think he's that strong.
What do you think, Vici?
I think like the biggest strength of Jarvan is the flex pick wordiness, and that's why I would probably say he's good for top lane, but I feel like he's a bit lacking in like the lane department compared to the other S tiers that we have already agreed on. So I personally would say A tier, but I can see him being S tier just for the flex pick, because as others mentioned already, he's really strong in the jungle right now, so it's definitely worth flex picking him.
Alright, it sounds like we'd put him as a really high A tier pick, like one of the top A tier picks basically. Next one we have Teemo, one of the champions you guys probably haven't played much, but he got an absolutely insane pick rate and win ratio, both of them. He's doing very well now. What do you guys think of this little yodel?
I think it's just airy getting abused like Pantheon. It's just like a buff to an early game champion, right? You do even more damage early game, and Teemo's an early game champion that can bully. I don't think it's actually a good champion. I don't think, you know, airy on Teemo makes it viable. I think it's just people are underestimating this early game, and once people like realize Ares OP, they'll just respect it a bit more.
Yeah, I agree on that. I don't think this champion is too strong otherwise than laning phase, like early on. Probably with Yorick and bully some other champions, but it's pretty easy to gank, and you need a lot of jungle pressure to keep this up. So I think in general I would put him like in a lower tier, probably around B, because I don't even think his laning phase is as dominant as like a Pantheon's or something like that.
For me personally, I think he does the same things Kennen does, but he just punishes you a little bit harder with the new Aerie. I think once Aerie gets put in line with the other keystones, Teemo is going to lose his play rate as well as his win rate, and Kennen will just take his place.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kennen scales a lot better too.
Yep, for sure. You also have like a lot more kill pressure in the lane. Like that's the thing with Teemo is like, yeah, you're a lane bully, but you can't set up kills, so freezing is impossible. And if you spam push, you're vulnerable to ganks. So it's I think he can work as cheese.
So where would you guys put it on the tier list?
B tier for me.
B tier.
Yeah.
Alright, that's fair. Next, we have Quinn, who's actually played a lot as an AD carry, but he's also played somewhat top lane sometimes. What do you guys think of this champion?
I mean, I haven't seen a single one, so it's actually a bit hard to
Same.
grasp. What rune would you actually run her with?
I'm guessing people would meme with Predator.
Either Predator,
Predator?
or Heavy, I guess.
Yeah,
Don't people
I feel
run
like,
the movement speed one as well?
well, that's the
Movement
thing with
speed?
Predator. Unless you mean Phase Rush, which is Storm Raiders. I feel like the removal of Thunderlords kind of killed her bully potential in top lane. So she's not as much as a bully, but now she roams a lot better with Predator, I guess. Not sure. I kind of don't like her.
Yeah, but basically to roam, you need to be able to like push in the lane and have a bit of advantage, which I don't really see her having right now. So
I think.
maybe after like recalling, you can do some cheese roam with Predator. But other than that, I don't really see her working too much.
I think she
Yeah,
only
I
works
agree.
against weak bruisers, basically. Like, for example, one champion I play a lot, Aurelia. Like, she works against that, but if you pick a tank, she can't really do anything at that point, and you just push her in, or you just gank all the time until she dies. Where would you guys put her on the list?
I'll put her as B.
Me too.
Yep.
I think
Same.
it's because Gangplank's seeing so much play right now that Quinn does well. Or
Mm.
has like any decent win rate, in my opinion. I feel like she's pretty good in the GP. And she just is profiting from that.
Fair enough, I agree with that. Next, we have Papi. Another little yawl. What do you guys think of this? You used to play her a lot, Vici.
Yeah, I still think she's like in a good state right now. The tank masteries seem to fit her well. So if you want to like have in your team composition an AD tank that has like solid laning phase, then I think she's a good way to go. But I'm not entirely sure if I would put her S or A because I haven't played her enough to decide that yet. I mean, she has the potential to be S, but sometimes I feel like she's lacking a bit of team fighting presence, which is a bit hard to imagine actually because you have so much potential with the ult, but still I think she's a bit weaker than other tanks in this regard.
Yeah, I think Poppy is like a fine champion, but he just gets overshadowed by like the other tanks like Ornn, Cho Gath, Maokai, Shen, that it's hard to justify picking it over them, really. Like he has good tools and his laning phase is fine, but his laning phase is still weaker and he still has less tools in the tanks, it feels like.
What do you think, Bwipo?
I think it's just pretty much the same. Like the only reason you would pick Poppy over the others here that were mentioned, the other super tanks, is 80. Like she does 80 damage, and other than that, like in that same slot, you kind of have Jarvan already if he's open.
I guess you'd also pick if the other team have a lot of jumps, like important jumping skills, because you can block those for
Is that
team
really a
fights.
reason?
It's pretty good against a lot of them, no?
Yeah, it can help a lot of the
Yeah,
times.
it can help a lot. It's just kind of Maokai does his job against that as well. The point and click
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really like
guess, yeah, why
Poppy's
not?
W against like
Yeah.
Lantern of Fresh. It's
Yeah,
pretty
that can work.
pretty good to play against it. But I think I would just put her like into the same category as Jarvan, like a high A tier, something like that.
Sure.
I can live with that. I can definitely live with that. Next we have Cho Gath, a beast of top lane. At least he used to be. I think he's slightly weaker now. What do you guys think about him?
I mean, I don't know if he's slightly weaker. I guess he is because attack speed, he didn't get any right, but at the same time, he's still, a decent laning phase. He scales maybe like the best tank in the game, and he can always have this bound threat at 20 where you just go and secure it. So I feel like even if he's like slightly weaker, he's still going to be one of the best picks for the time being, especially with like Jayce and Trundle getting nerfed indirectly by Fervor. So I feel like he's in a fine state, or like not a fine state, like still as overpowered as before. So I'll say he's like S.
Yeah, I would definitely say he's S as well, but I personally felt like the attack speed removal is something that hurts him a lot. So I feel like he's a bit weaker than he used to be, especially in terms of the lane dominance. But he scales equally well. Like when you get to like mid-late game, it doesn't really matter to him if he has less attack speed or not. So he's still gonna be this beast that has the potential to one-shot carries and provide a lot in team fights, while also contributes a lot to taking objectives.
I think he got buffed for what he wants to be doing. So like I think with the new runes that he's a lot harder to get out of the laning phase because he has like 800 base HP at level 1 with Doran Shield, and with second win his healing's pretty dumb. So it's like I don't think you can really get him out of the lane without like a lot of jungle assistance or a few ganks here and there, which means that sure he isn't as dominant and he doesn't have as much kill pressure as he used to in lane. But for what he wants to achieve, which is just farming till 6 stacks and then just being a monster in team fights and having that neutral objective pressure, he does it like even easier now.
Alright. So it sounds like you guys all think he's better than I thought. So you guys all place him in S tier?
Yeah, I think he's
For
less.
sure.
Well, you guys are the better players. We'll put him in S. It's all good. All good with me. What do you guys think of Akali? This is a champion that an American player got rank 1 with, from what I remember.
I mean, he can't work against tanks. I feel like in lane, I feel like that's like kind of a trend for Lethality champions. Champions that rely on just snowballing during lane. They don't work against tanks, but I feel like he's one of the better ones at that. I feel like his laning phase and his kill potential is like higher than say a Wukong's or a Talon's. So I'll probably put him A or B, but he still has like similar problems where he like loses against like better carries like Rumble or Jayce. He's gonna get destroyed by. At the same time, he can't lane against tanks.
Pretty much. I feel like if you can survive 1 to 6, she can provide some sort of kill pressure, like a lot of kill pressure even at level 6. If you can go even by 1 to 5, but just remains to be seen, right? Can you make that 1 to 5, and in what matchup? Like what matchup can you consistently pull off getting to level 5, 6 without getting abused? Is the real question for me here. I don't think she does anything cheesy with going Resolve and then going something like Grasp to make sure she makes it there. Still think she's just snowballing champion that stacks, basically tries to go for a one-shot on a squishy at some point, tries to snowball. Not that good.
I definitely agree with that as well. I don't see her working too well into the S tier top laners right now, especially into like tanks, because you basically want to like one-shot the squishies. So I guess she would be like A or B tier for me too.
So if you guys have to do a final say, would you put her in B or A?
I would say B.
Personally, I'll put her A, because if she does get ahead, she'll just 1v5.
I'll put him in B actually.
Okay, sure.
Let's put
I mean,
her
I
in the
can get
B
that.
ladder.
Yeah,
I think she's good if you're slightly better than the opponent as well. Like if you have a higher skill than the opponent you meet, because at our level we sometimes meet worse players, right? Then you can snowball harder against them as well, which also have an effect, right? And as next, let's go on to Cael. What do you guys think of Cael? A champion I truly despise. It's not a fun champion to play. I don't like Season 4 World Cup anymore, but it happened.
I think I'm actually not sure if she got buffed because of the new runes. I think she still goes the Storm Rider, the phase dive, phase rush it is. So she can escape as well as chase people easier. But I don't think anything really changed for Cael. I think she's the same old, same old. Build 2 damage items. If you get there without feeding, you're going to like do a fuck ton of damage, and if you don't get there, you're gonna keep dying.
Yeah, I think that's always been like the problem of the champion, that you want to perma push the lane, and that is actually really hard because you are so exposed to ganks. And even after level 6 or even with phase rush or whichever rune that gives you extra movement speed, it's actually hard to manage to get away from ganks, especially against tanks that have like a lot of CC. So I personally I'm like not a fan of her, but if she gets out of laning phase, fine, she's gonna become strong. But generally, I think she should not be allowed to.
Yeah, I think Cael barely got changed this patch. Maybe he's like nerfed a little bit, if anything, but he still has same problems where he wants to push and he has like no team fight presence until 2 items. So I think it's just not good enough.
It sounds
picking.
It sounds like none of you guys like Cael at all.
The biggest problem I have is she can't really, like, she has no leeway in her item build. She has to go for Nash's Tooth. And then, sure, after Nash's Tooth, I think you can go with Shen, but by then, if people haven't snowballed on you already by having no resistances or anything, I think just means they messed up.
Also, I think one thing that hit her is also the fact that games are actually shorter now in this patch. So she actually doesn't get to scale up as much as she'd want to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
the game
definitely
is-
counts as well.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
game does seem more more snowbally with electric junglers everywhere. So I agree.
So where would you guys put her? I assume B?
Yeah, B.
Yeah, B.
Alright. Next we have Jayce. Almost same win ratio to 0.01 difference. What do you guys think of this champion? I think he got nerfed a little bit.
I think he's a lot more. I think he has to all in a lot more. He has to use hammer stance a lot more, which obviously hurts him because it makes him a lot more vulnerable. Most of his damage got shifted into that, and that hurts him a lot, I would say. Not having that safe poke that he always had. It's still good. His shock blast still good. His range form obviously still very obnoxious and hard to deal with. But to really get advantages, I think he has to get up in person and get close and personal, and then it can go wrong for him from that point on.
I think like the new runes with like all the health regen and armor you can get in the new runes, like does hurt him as well as further getting removed. But at the same time, I still feel like he achieves what he wants to achieve. Where like he's just like this high pressure top laner where if you don't like make a lead happen with your jungler or mid laner, you're gonna lose the game. But if you do, then like he's really strong at doing what he does, probably the best still, I would say. So I think you just need to be like really coordinated with him and like efficient at like using his strong laning phase, but it's harder to do that now.
Yeah, I can see the same pattern with Jayce. That I feel like Fervor is a bit missing against the tanks, but other than that, he's still like a lane dominant champion early on, and you can definitely snowball on it with like the right amount of pressure put to top lane. But I feel like if he's on his own, like left alone, he's probably not gonna provide too much compared to like Maokai, Shen, Cho Gath so far. But
So
I would still say like he's like an S tier, but a lower one.
I'd say A+. I think he's the same category as Jarvan.
I'll rate him higher than Jarvan. I would
Okay.
say as
Then we
well.
can put him as.
But
Yeah, sure.
he's just difficult to utilize.
So basically a very, very low S tier that
Yeah.
can be abused, and you have to be extremely good on him to make him work.
Have to have good synergy with jungler as well.
Yeah, I think he's S tier because with good synergy with the jungler, he can beat the other S tiers up pretty badly.
I can see that. Next we have Heimerdinger, an absolutely obnoxious champion to play against in the laning phase. He does so much damage. What do you guys think of this little brain?
I think it's like a full cheese pick. That I think if we said to like Sion that you need to know how to play against it, that definitely applies to Heimerdinger like 3 times as much. Because this champion, if you know his damage or like what his spells are doing, I think it becomes way easier to play against it. And personally, I don't even feel like I struggle lately with playing against it. I think it's just not even that big of a lane bully. He just wants to push the lane and do nothing, just to be in the lane.
Just push the line.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's that strong right now.
He's basically just a pushing bot, and yeah, that's all he does. Like after lane phase, he's useless, and if you don't int during laning phase, the Heimerdinger, then he's useless too. So I would rate him pretty low. You just have to hope enemies like underestimate your ultimate tower or something.
I think he does a deceptive amount of damage if you get caught by a grenade in the middle of his 3 turrets. As you can hear, that shouldn't happen. But other than that, yeah, as long as you don't get cheesed, he's not going to do anything.
Alright, so we put him on BT or A, or
Yeah,
leave him out
BT.
of the list?
I mean,
I'm not sure if out of the list because he probably like has some potential if we put other champions there as well.
Yeah, I think how many people actually know what his abilities do?
Yeah.
So I think he can be B because you can choose people with that.
Alright, so sounds like a B tier cheese pick we're having over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have Karthus. Normally a mid lane champ. He also gets played sometimes in the top lane. What do you guys think about this guy?
I think One Trick's play him top lane, but other than that, I've never seen anybody seriously pick this champion.
Yeah, same. I don't see him too much around.
Yeah, it's if there's a Karthus One Trick, he'll play it in both solo lanes. I guess he can do what he wants to do and just press R from top lane as well as mid lane. But I feel like the lane is much longer, makes it much easier to get ganked, makes it super hard for him to farm freely. So games are shorter, which again worse for him.
Yeah, I think it's not a cheese pick. Like I see some like top lane Karthuses just like go to enemy blue with level 1 and try to solo it. If they get it, the lane phase is really strong. But if they don't get it, which it's pretty hard for them to get, then the lane phase is not that strong. And as soon as you get like half an MR item, like a Cael or Mercury Treads against him, he's just gonna be really weak until like voice staff basically. So I feel he's just too slow and too cheesy.
As none of you guys like him, is this going to be the first champion we leave out of the list, or do you guys still think he
Yeah,
deserves it?
I think this guy actually doesn't belong on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I love Karthus, but he's not a top liner.
What do you think, Alphari?
I mean, I don't necessarily think he's like worse than Heimerdinger or Teemo, but like all of these are pretty bad champions, so I guess Karthus can get left out of the list, yeah.
I think the problem with Karthus is that he's too hard to play compared to like Teemo is kind of easy, Heimer is kind of easy, right? But then you play Karthus, you have to be really good on him, and he's still equally bad to other champions. That's my main
That's fair
problem.
enough.
Next one is Kled. What do you guys think of Kled's 51% win ratio?
He got nerfed so hard with the removal of fervor. Like, press the attack in theory has the potential to make it for him, but I haven't seen it happen. Like, so I feel like removal of fervor hurt him a lot, but maybe other people played into him.
No, I feel the same. I think he got nerfed and he's way weaker than he used to be. And I think he wasn't in that good position earlier either. Like he was.
Yeah, exactly.
If you knew how to play against him, he was not that hard to deal with. So personally, don't rate him too high right now.
Yeah, I think he got nerfed too. I think that like the champions you have picked him against also kind of got buff. Like tanks are a lot harder to win lane against now, and also Rumble is like a lot stronger early game as well. So I feel like Kled is like a B probably, whereas before he might have been an A.
Yeah, I think he's B.
I think so too.
I met him a couple of times solo as well, and I thought he was really weak. Like, he doesn't do much anymore. So I'll put him B as well. It's fair for all of us. Next, we have Gangplank, who gets a lot of money if you use the gimmicky Gangplank build. Didn't seem to be that good. What do you guys think about him? Personally, I saw Grasp being a little better on him.
I mean, Grasp is lane dominance. I think if you go Grasp, you can be really lane dominant with him in the early levels. If you manage to translate that into an early Shen, you're going to continue your pressure. If you don't manage that, you're still just the same old Gangplank. Starax buffs that came in a few patches ago still apply to him right now, making it an even better item on him. And I'd say he's pretty good, yeah. With Grasp, he's a lane bully. With Kleptomancy, he cheeses and gets a lot of gold. He's pretty good.
Yeah. I would definitely run Grasp on him as well. I think with Grasp he becomes like really tanky, and it basically compensates for the lack of AD, because you don't get AD from runes if you go the Grasp route. But you deal like the same amount of damage if you use Grasp and Q on the enemy. You go with extra HP, you are harder to gank, and you are just a lot beefier. So I think his laning phase improved with this, and you can get your item power spikes easier this way as well. Like, I don't really see anyone negating the Gangplank to not reach the Shen power spike. I think he will just get Shen basically whatever happens. So I think he's in a good state right now, and I would rate him quite high.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's like one of the better carries at the moment. I think he still like suffers versus carries like Jayce and Rumble, but aside from that, his lane phase is like pretty solid against most champions, even against like other S tier picks like tanks. Gangplank has always been like a fine pick where you just get Shen, and then you have like a strong lane phase and you can ramp up pretty fast. So yeah, I think he's like definitely one of the strongest top laner like carries this patch.
I played a bunch against Gangplank. I felt like he's strong in laning phase, you guys say, but I still think he gets hurt a little bit by the games ending 6 minutes earlier or something like that. So that's my main problem with him. Like, he's a bit stronger in laning phase now, but games end earlier, so he doesn't get as many items. Where would you guys place him on the list if you guys think of him?
You actually also miss like the Thunderlord proc on your ult, which used to
that's
be
for sure.
really
The ulti feels really weak.
I would still put him S tier. I think he's quite strong.
I would put him S or A. I'm like a little bit torn.
I'll give him S because I actually think with the Grasp you can actually lane against Jayce.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think so
think
too.
Rumble is possible, but Jayce is definitely possible. Like Rumble, you just
Rumble
go,
will destroy him for sure.
yeah, but Jayce you can actually match, and just because of that, there's so like means you don't have to ban as much if you're trying to like make him work and competitive. And for solo queue, he's even better. I'd put him S for sure.
Yeah, S makes sense then.
Cool. Gangplank gets to be an S tier lower one, but that's cool. Next, we have a champion that I know a lot of us like. He's called Jax. I know Alphari used to play him a lot in Korea. You were spamming that champion. What do you guys think of him now?
I mean, like he's not so good against tanks still, but I still feel like he's the best Triforce user, and he's like another like top 4 carry this patch. I think it's like a fine matchup in the Gangplank and other carries for sure. Not into Jayce and Rumble. I mean, maybe into Rumble he can like still kind of survive with the new runes, but I'm not like 100% sure. Yeah, it just depends if he can like survive more against Jayce and Rumble, which I think he should be able to do. At least against Jayce, like after Fervor got nerfed, I think it should be like a little bit better for him in that regard. But I think he's like pretty similar, where his laning phase isn't that great, but like not all matchups, right? Like versus like Aurelia and Camille and other carry top lane, it's gonna be really strong. But I'll probably rate him A at the moment.
For me, I actually think he abuses Aftershock really well. With the way he wants to be trading and what he wants to be achieving in his laning phase, just getting to his Trinity Force, I don't think you can get him out of lane if you go Aftershock on him. And you notice the damage a little bit, but not enough that you care. Because once you get Trinity Force, your damage is going to be like substantial anyway. So I think if you have a really bad matchup, you can just go into Aftershock, into the Resolve tree, and just whatever it and just farm it anyway. Farm it out.
That actually sounds good. I haven't tried it with Aftershock or haven't seen it with Aftershock yet, but that might work out well for him. But other than that,
Yeah,
he's probably like really tanky.
Yeah, he gets like 150 resist to level 6. It's so dumb.
It's 30% plus 25, right? I believe it's something like that. Like 25 maxes and armor and then 30% no?
It's something nuts.
Yeah, I played a bunch of Jax. Also, I think press the attack is synergizes with the best with Jax of all champions. Like, it's ridiculous in my opinion. What do you guys think about that?
I think press attack makes more sense than Aftershock. I feel like Aftershock on Jax is like kind of, if you land the E, you're probably going to win the trade anyway. Versus champs like Gnar, Jayce, Cannon, which are like traditional counters against Jax. It's really hard to land the E, and Aftershock isn't going to help you in that regard. And versus tanks, I also feel like you'll prefer press the attack for the attack speed and like have more pressure early game, which I feel like Jax kind of needs, like when I'm playing against tanks, to be able to like push them in early game. So I don't really like Aftershock that much. I think press the attack kind of seems like the way to go. I don't feel like he got changed that much this patch. I feel like he's like still the best Triforce user, with Sterx being like a pretty good buff recently, and he's like a good matchup into champions like Jax, other carries that are squishy.
I personally think he's a high A tier. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I would put him A tier as well.
A tier is fine.
Alright, cool. Next we have Camille, a champion you guys love to play. At least I know some of you guys love to play him a lot. Or her a lot, sorry. What do you guys think of her?
I haven't experimented too much with her, but from what I've seen, I think Fervor is a bit missing on her, because it helped you a lot with your extra Q damage as well, which you don't have now. But her build buff is quite good, with Sterx being buffed for like Triforce users. Other than that, I think she got a bit nerfed with the removal of Fervor, and maybe that hurts her a bit, but she can definitely work in certain matchups.
Yeah, I think Camille kind of suffers this patch. I think with like more early game options, like getting buffed like Rumble, and Jax is like still existing, which Camille gets kind of shit on. I think it's just hard to pick Camille. Like, he doesn't feel like he has any winning matchups, and he's just so slow. Like, he's always been pretty slow, Camille, but when games are like slower or like faster rather, and like junglers have more damage, so it's like a lot easier to set up dives, he's just weak, I think, at the moment.
I think if some madman makes her work support with like Aftershock, that she might have some use in top lane, but like other than that, if I don't see that happening, I don't think she's actually that good. Like I don't think she's not gonna make the cut on top lane. I think.
Yeah, she's definitely not blind pickable, but if you find a matchup she can work in, then I think
Yeah, exactly.
she will like be the same as before.
Right, so
Like
where
a
would you
good
guys
pick.
place her? With that and Fort? Like then
Right, I think.
Yeah, I would put her 8 here too.
I'll put the BOA. Like the only matchup I can see him like maybe working as Rumble. Other than that, I feel like he's just going to like get dumped on.
Like I would agree with B tier, but like I don't want to put Camille in the same tier as Teemo and stuff like that. So that kind of gets me torn, right? Like I think she's better than that, but I do agree that in the current meta she can't really line against anybody.
But he can still be a high B tier, right? Like there can be low B tiers and high B tiers. For
Sure
example,
thing. Let's
like
put her next to Clad then.
Yeah,
Like-
we can do that as well. Then she can be like high B tier.
because personally, I don't really think she does well against anyone from S or A tier. Like not most
Yeah.
of them at least. Like
This
she's
is
used to those, right? So she could only really work against other B tier
Maybe
champions.
Sion.
Maybe Sion, yeah. I could see that possibly
I
working.
don't know.
But it's even hard there, I think, no.
Probably. I haven't
Or
played
maybe
that
Jarvan
matchup.
as well. I forgot about Jarvan.
Maybe.
Alright, next one we have Nautilus. What do you guys think of this champ? Do you think he's even worthy to be on the tier list? Do you guys think he's any
For
good?
sure, for sure. Like Aftershock on, like I haven't played it and I haven't seen anybody do it, but like with how he wants to be trading with his W and the new Aftershock, I think he's pretty good. I actually think he doesn't get as much recognition as he should given the new Aftershock.
I actually tried it out and I didn't feel like. I mean, in theory it looks really good, but you
Hmm.
can't really utilize the aftershock on him early on, at
I
least.
see. Okay,
No.
that's fine.
So I feel like he definitely has a place on the tier list, but
Mhm.
it's not too high compared to like the other tanks. Probably like A or B plus, something like that.
I feel like he just falls under the same category as like other tanks like Papi and Gragas, where they're just not as good as like the S tier tanks, right?
Mhm.
And they do kind of everything worse, but like still solid tanks in other situations.
Alright. Sounds like you guys when it was an A tier. I don't think Nautilus does that much. Like I just feel like he's useless every time I play against him, so
Yeah, I would put him like B plus actually.
alrighty.
I'll put him B probably too.
Yeah, I think B is reasonable for him if Aftershock doesn't work. I haven't tested it, but I'll take his word for it. Take Lizzie's word for it if it doesn't work.
Alright, we'll just boom down then. Okay, next one we have Garen, another champion. I don't really think this deserves a place on the list, but what do you guys think of this champion? I think he's just a useless champion that doesn't do anything unless if you snowball lane.
I think Garen's just Garen. Like he's like Darius, but does that like he silences instead of pulls people? Is there any matchup he's good in? I don't think so.
I think actually wins a lot of melee matchups, but his kit is just not strong enough afterwards. Like he doesn't provide any CC. You're just gonna be like a meat there that they can even ignore because your damage is not gonna be high enough if you go tanky route. So I think that's his main problem right now. You just
What about the
cannot
ulti
really
and the
find.
true damage? Like if you go full tank and you have the villain thing on somebody, you think your ulti is
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
useful?
basically all your
Yeah,
damage, like your true damage from ult. Which
Yeah.
if people like play around it, they see who is the villain and just try to kite you around, which they can easily do since you just run at them. Then I think he's not in that good position.
Yeah, Garen is a pretty useless champion if he's not like being like stomping other melee champions in top lane, right?
Yeah, and if you play against the ranged, you are just probably
yeah.
done.
You just hate your life, but I don't think Garen's particularly strong. Maybe if you have like a really cheesy build, like all these black levers getting stacked, maybe that can be good on Garen, but like you still need to meet the like requirement of playing against a melee top laner and snowballing really fast for it to be useful.
Alright. Where would you guys put him if you would put him on the list?
B.
Yeah, B.
Alright. Sounds you guys like him a little more than I do, but that's alright.
I mean, I have some history with him. I did play him in High Elo like 2 games in a row a year ago.
You have some feelings with him, that's cool.
I mean, it's like I don't think he's like unplayable into ranged matchups. It's just like he doesn't bring anything. That's the problem. It's like he's like Teemo for me in the sense that sure you can like win your lane, but after that point, if you haven't like stomped this guy into the next game, like you're useless.
Alright, next we have Ornn, a new champion who seems very, very strong. You kind of have to learn how to play against him, I think, and then he's much easier, but he's still very strong.
I think he's broken either way, even if you know what to do against him. He's just early laning phase. Maybe you can do something against him, but after like level 9, this champion just becomes really obnoxious to deal with, even as like an S tier tank, as a Cho Gath or something. You might find yourself getting bursted down at one point because his W damage is so insane, and if he gets cooldown reduction, it just increases a lot. So I would definitely regard Ornn as one of the highest picks right now.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he does so much damage, and I feel like he's probably like the hardest to poke out tank on the list. So he deserves S tier for sure. I feel like I'm not sure if he's like better than other tanks in like every aspect, but it seems like his laning phase is a lot stronger, and his engage is maybe like one of the best at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think like if you don't have like a dedicated Braum or something that'll block his ulti, like if the enemy carrier doesn't have an escape, he has to burn his flash every time you ulti. His ultimate is crazy for late game team fighting, and then his laning phase is really solid. Transitions into like kill pressure at some point because of how much damage his W does and how his ulti interacts with it. Because his ulti gives him the 7 or 9% whatever max HP damage it is as well on top of everything. So Biddle is just broken.
My keyboard just died. Can any of you guys type in the on?
Yep.
My keyboard's not gonna work. Anyways, I think on is strong, but he's S plus if you don't know how to play against him, because you will get destroyed in lane. Like if you don't know how to sidestep the W, I believe it's the W, like the fire thing, then you don't have a chance at all. That's what I think about him.
I think you need a champion that can somehow deal with this, like jump on top of him and avoid the W stack. Then you can trade against him, but if you don't have this in your kit, then you will end up getting the W stack and out traded eventually.
Alright. Next we have Vladimir. Do any of you guys like the vampire of top lane?
I think he's pretty bad. Like I feel like he's like Teemo or Cael, where like maybe his lane phase is okay against say like a Gangplank or something that can't really like jump on him early game, or like a tank. He can like probably push him in, but he's not gonna like push him out of lane. He's just gonna sustain under his tower, right, and get Cael. And yeah, like he's just, as soon as like enemy will get some MR, he's gonna lose against everything that before he won against, and everything else that like doesn't need to build MR, so he's gonna win anyway. So I feel like he's just bad.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't even see Keystone that's like particularly good for him. Like maybe go Kleptomancy and try and cheese with Q. Nah.
Yeah,
really.
I think he's not too strong either.
Alright, so where would you guys place him? None of you like him?
I guess B.
Yeah,
like low beer or something.
B or not even on it. Like
yeah, or with Karthus.
Yeah, okay.
I don't really think on it. Yeah, I agree with that one. Let's just keep him off. He seems very weak. He doesn't really do anything. Next one we have Tomkins, a champion that I think comes back a little bit now. He seems a bit stronger with the new runes. What do you guys think of him?
I think people overhyped the fact that he has 50 armor level 1. I don't think he performs as well as the other tanks. His global ultimate's pretty good, of course, and a new grasp on him, as well as the fact that he has the 47 base armor now, is all fun and great and stuff, but it doesn't fix any of his problems that he used to have, and it's not like any of the matchups are really good for him either, in my experience.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that strong compared to like other tanks. The CC provides is way less, but in other aspects he can be good too, like with the W, this kind of supportish style that you can play with him, but I think just take him to support rather, and he doesn't belong to top lane that much.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like his team fighting just kind of sucks. Like sure, his lane phase is like fine, like especially against tanks you can like usually just push and like maybe get good trades against them, but when it comes to team fighting, you don't really have any way to like dive, and the only thing you can really do is peel, and that's like only good like situationally. So maybe into like certain team comps, like people like play like Rengar, Leona, and you're like there in time, which is difficult because you're probably going to be in a side lane and have to TP like a lot of the time as well. Then maybe it can be strong for team fights, but otherwise he's just not going to be good enough.
Alright, where would you guys put him? Would you guys put him in B or? Leave him off.
I would put him A if
Or A.
he suddenly gets really good support and he's blind pickable support. If that's not the case and you can't flex him blind, I'd put him B.
Yeah, I would put him B probably. But if he becomes like OP in support and can be flexed, I think he can be higher after that. But right now, I would say B.
I think B as well.
I agree with B. I think that he doesn't really have a place. He doesn't really compete with any of other tanks. Like if I would rather have a Sion or Jarvan or obviously S tier tanks or anything else. Don't really feel he does that much. Alright, next on the list we do have Mordecai. So this guy's a cheese champ. I remember losing to him very hard last time I played against him. But what do you guys think about this annoying champion?
I think he's a counter pick into Renekton. That's what he saw play for. I still think he does that kind of well, especially with Fervor being removed. But then the question's asked, who blind picks Renekton or picks Renekton at all at this point? So I just think he lost his purpose.
Yeah, I don't consider him too strong either. And I think he's really vulnerable to CC. And with like a damage jungler, you can snowball on this guy every single time the jungler decides to gank because he's so easy to kill.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like he just needs to cheese and like pray the enemies will try to all in level 6 and he can like one-shot them and maybe snowball that way. If he doesn't get kills in lane, he's not very strong compared to like Triforce users who are going to win split push against him, or tanks who are going to win team fights. He doesn't really like win team fights or split push at that point, and he's like so easy to gank in lane. Doesn't offer like any gank assistance with any CC, so I don't like him.
Alright, where would you guys put him on the list if you have to?
B.
Or if you don't?
I think
B.
it can be B because sometimes people underestimate your W healing and you get the snowball off that.
I think
if people don't underestimate your W, it's just useless.
I think he's beta as well. I really dislike him because he counters some of the champs I like to play. Renekton and Aurelia, but he's not that good, I think.
Yeah, I think B tier too.
Alright, next on this we have Olaf. What do you guys think about the Viking top lane? I don't think he's even worthy as a pick, but let's hear your opinions.
Obviously not having Fervor kind of sucks, but with press the attack, you kind of do the same thing with just Q spam instead. I think you could even go resolve and be tanky and make it through your early that way against a really aggressive jungler. The fact that he doesn't get any AD or CDR in the early game, however, means he's dead for me. Like, not being able to Q spam level 1 is just... I don't even think he's playable anymore in top lane.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge issue for him right now that he cannot get the CDR and probably not the AD as well if you want to go like proper runes and be a bit more tanky. So I guess I would probably put him on the list.
Yeah, he used Fervor really well, and he needed AD on his rune page, and now it's hard to get either of those. So he sucks even more than before.
So would you guys put him on the list, or is he dead to you guys?
No CDR at level 1 is just no. You can't hard trade level 1. You can't hard trade level 1. What do you do as Olaf? Nothing. You beat Irelia. That's what you do.
You don't even beat
can't
Aurelia, I
flex
think.
Aurelia.
Not anymore.
No, I
Like,
think
rip-
Probably
Aurelia
not.
not even that. God
No,
damn
you don't
it.
even beat Aurelia
Rip
anymore.
Olaf. Useless.
I think he's completely useless then.
Yeah, completely useless.
Okay, I think he's just dead then. Let's just leave him off. What do you guys think about Aurelia? Who is the next champion since we just talked about her? I personally think she actually got a buff in this patch. She's still bad, but she got a buff and she's better than before. But she's very prone to getting pushed in and dove. Or getting destroyed by Shen as Vizicsacsi did to me.
Yeah, I think that's her problem generally right now, that against tanks she doesn't fare off that well. And even though you get more attack speed and you probably deal like more true damage to them, they go tankier at the same time, and after getting a Bramble West, she usually gets countered by those. So it's a pretty rough spot. And I also feel like with the removal of Fervor, she deals a bit less damage to the squishy targets. Like if you go with some kind of Blade of the Wind King buff.
I actually think she does more damage now. With electrocute or press the attack depending on what you're against.
Yeah, with press the attack she probably does. But I'm not too sure. I haven't experimented too much on her because I feel like she's in a rough spot against the S tier picks. And also relies a lot on jungler because she doesn't really have like an escape ability. You can try to play around with Q, but that's all you have. So without jungle pressure, I feel like she's just a dive material that people can abuse.
What do you think?
I
Bob?
feel like Aurelia just suffers from being a worse Triforce split pusher than Jax. Like maybe you can justify picking it into Gangplank. It used to be like a good matchup, but now that Gangplank can get like this 200 extra health, level 1 and good grass, maybe that's not even like that good anymore.
Yeah.
Especially now that Stealth is also really good. So I don't think Aurelia's that strong. Like maybe you can like pick it into Gangplank, like I said, but that's the only situation I can see it maybe working out.
I think the release of Bramblevest put her in a position that even these new runes can't bring her out of. Like, Bramblevest it's just too good against her. The only thing I can see potentially working is either you choose the electrocute or you go something really stupid like lethal tempo and you somehow manage to get someone in a stun next to you and you just one shot them with true damage.
No, lethal tempo was really bad actually.
Exactly. So maybe you proc it off your ultimate, then dash on a creep, stun somebody, and somehow, nope. Bramblevest is just too good.
It's where would you guys place it if you put her on the list? What do you guys think?
I think something like B+.
Yeah, I'll put her a B too.
Yeah, I think a high B, close to A.
Yep.
I think she's actually decent, but he's not good enough to be A tier, in my eyes. Next we have Malphite, a stone, a champion I used to put Trinity Force on. He's used to be very, very good. I got made fun of a lot. What do you guys think of this stone?
I think
Must
he's
not be
in
that
like
bad.
fine position, kind of. I think into like these more Trinity Force oriented picks, like Jax Camille and such, you can pick it into. I'm not entirely sure how he fares off against other tanks because I haven't seen those matchups yet. But if he's like fine-ish into those, I think he can have like a higher place in the tier list. But right now I would probably put him in like A.
I've played Malphite a bunch of games. He got a really rough laning phase against other tanks. So that's really difficult for him.
I think as long as Rumble stays in a meta, Malphite doesn't get in. I think Rumble just pushes him out really well. The matchup that used to be unplayable, I'm pretty sure it still is. And then he isn't pickable into other tanks either. So maybe if you get the opportunity to counter pick a Jax, that you would consider him. But if he actually makes the cut at that point, I still don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Like he can work against carry tops apart from like the best ones, but then so do all the other tanks. So, and they work better as well. It's just difficult to pick him when there are so many tanks that just outlane him and like are better in situations that he's good at as well.
I would personally put him as a highest B tier because I feel like he's good against some of the B tier champions, but I think he loses to almost all A in S tier, except for maybe Jax where he can win.
I think Pantheon he does well into too. I'd give him that.
I might do well against Pantheon, I could see that.
I mean, he has 800 health and like 60 armor. I don't see Pantheon poking him out of lane, but yeah, like, that doesn't really matter. He's definitely B. It's just details.
Alright, the next one we have is, I believe, is Hikrim on the list because of his win ratio, but I don't think Hikrim deserves a spot on the top lane tier list. How do you guys feel?
I think that
Probably not.
Predator maybe does what Home Guard used to do for him. Like, if you can activate it in base, run to a lane, and get away with it, maybe. But I don't think it's possible because you have like the little mark on your head when Predator runs at you, so it's super telegraphed. I think I don't even know how good his laning phase is. It must not be bad with the grasp, but is it good enough? I don't think so.
I feel like his laning phase must be pretty bad at the moment, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. I can't see him like winning lane against any A or B or S or A champions.
I suppose not.
I can't even see him winning lane against most B tier champions. Like, who would he
Yeah,
actually
that
win against?
also.
I think he'd give it.
Maybe Malphite he can go even with.
Yeah.
I mean, I see him beat I see him beating Akali. I see him beating Wukong, Talon,
Yeah,
scoring
maybe
all in
with
against
Wukong.
I
them.
think he
Like,
can
it's
beat a
just-
Kayle. She heals so much.
I mean, so does he. Like, that's the thing, he kills the minion wave, right, with
Yeah,
AoE?
good thing you can hit her while she's stealth with your Q.
I mean,
That's
it's
true.
it's just a matter of like how he's always been. If his mana ratio, like his mana to Q damage ratio, is any decent, he can lane. If it isn't, he's unlaneable because he'll just run in before he kills you.
Alright. So where would you guys put him?
B or off it.
I
Probably
think
even
just
off
don't
of
put
it.
him because against range champions you are like completely doomed probably in the lane, and most middies you are not like too good against either.
I agree with that.
Sure.
Alright, next we have Xin Xiao. Champion I actually think is decent top lane if he gets the push and there's no junglers involved. Sadly, it's not a 1v1 game, so he dies to every gank in my experience. What do you guys think about Xin Xiao?
Maybe he's strong enough at this point that he can just charge onto your jungler and one-shot him, because like this champion is disgusting at the moment in jungle. But I think if you get ganked and you can't charge onto someone and straight up one-shot them, you're just gonna die over and over again in top lane. You don't shove fast enough to actually like shove in the waves because the W does reduce damage. I don't think Tiamat is buildable on him. I mean, I guess it is, but it's not going to salvage him, and Bramblefest still really hurts us in Zao as well. So I would say just leave him in the jungle. He's just busted there anyway.
I agree with that. I think if you pick Xin Xiao and you put in Thomas out of jungle, you just stole your jungler's strongest pick, so...
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves the spot.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Seems like we all agree. What do you guys think of the next one, who is Kennen, who I know some of you guys used to love a lot?
Yeah, I think huge problem of Canon is the attack speed removal. Like you're missing the attack speed a lot, and if you go press the attack, then you don't have AP or AD. Like I think you used to run a lot of damage runes on him. Like I personally went like hybrid penetration, attack speed, and AP at the same time, and I'm missing it a lot. That his bully potential just decreased a huge amount with the new patch.
I think Cannon is like he's definitely not one of the strongest carry tops at the moment, but I think he can still have like a solid lane phase with either going. I think first of all he might be playing like AD or AP. I think both builds are like still probably playable with press the attack or the summoner spell book one or electrocute, depending on like what you want to do. But I've been playing it with the summoner spell book where you like go ignite and have like plus 30 AD, which still makes him a bit of a bully in a lot of matchups, like melee matchups. And then you like swap to TP and swap to AP later on, but he is nerfed and I don't see him being good against tanks for sure, but he like still fits the niche where if you want like an AP damage dealer because you have like an AD mid and Rumble isn't available, maybe it's like banned or something, then I think he's maybe the second best AP top.
Yep.
I think if Airy gets the nerfs it deserves, he can shine a little bit better. But I pretty much agree with what was said. He fits a nice niche, and he'll always keep fitting that.
So which spot do you think Kennen deserves?
It's like A tier.
A for sure.
Right, fair enough. I'll agree with that. Next one we have Swain, a champion that I know Quast loves from NA. I assume all of you guys know him. Pretty good mechanical player. What do you guys think about Swain?
I think he has a few good matchups that you can play him into. And that's about it. I think he suffers the same problem as Lad. If someone jumps on your face, like early levels, 1-2, that you're going to take a really bad trade and that'll snowball into a bad laning phase. I think if you push too hard, you're relatively vulnerable to ganks pre-6. And well, that's about it.
I think his laning phase is actually quite strong and used to be strong already before the rune changes. Maybe what's a bit worse is that the tanks you play against are a bit more tankier right now, so it's a bit harder to bully them out. But other than that, he has really dominant laning phase against most champions, and if you play around it, I think he will probably end up winning the lane with a huge CS lead. However, he falls off quite a lot afterwards, and I think that was his main problem already before, that he probably gets outscaled by the other top laner. And if you play around him this much, it's probably not that rewarding either, because it's a bit harder to snowball than like other ranged bully champions.
Yeah, I agree. He's a lane bully, but when there's like so many grievous wound items, it's really hard to play him like mid-late game effectively. And unless you're snowballing super hard. And then if you like want to commit to like playing like a bully top lane style, there was better picks like Jayce or not probably. So it's just not the strongest at his job.
Yeah. I would still put him in like A tier because I think he has some potential to bully most of the champions. So he's not that weak.
I'd put him in A tier. Also seen people use Klepto, the money bank thing, on him and actually get a lot of money and quick items. He seemed to be strong with that. I do think he's a low A tier though. I don't think he's that great, but
Yeah,
I do
definitely.
think he just deserves the spot
Sure.
for that.
I don't know. I think Klepto's kind of cheesing. And is there another keystone that's good on him?
I think you would go airy otherwise.
Yeah, we can go
I
here.
guess so. Yeah, that works.
Next one we have Dr. Mundo. What do you guys think about Dr. Mundo? I used to play him a lot. He's super fun, but I think he's absolutely useless.
Yeah, I think
Mundo,
so.
dude.
Like, I think he's a worse version of Garen.
Yeah.
Really?
The worst version of Garen? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say that.
Maybe like a tiny bit better because he scares.
I mean, at least his
A bit
spam
better.
slow as well, you know? He has some form of... Like, the thing is that, like, he's the only tank that can ARAM, right? Like, I mean, ARAM and do nothing, which other tanks obviously would initiate. So if you want to ARAM and do nothing, Mundo's pretty good. If you want to actually do something in your game and have a reasonable tank, I think he sucks. He can...
Alright.
If he snowballs with grasp, his damage is absurd and you don't get to kill him. But how does he snowball?
Yeah. I don't think he wins any lanes against any champions on the list currently. Maybe he can go good in Malphite even, but I don't think anyone will kill each other.
Yeah,
Pretty
I
much.
think until like grievous wound items like get removed or something, Mundo's never going to be particularly strong. He's weak against a lot of AD champions, and he just doesn't offer that much in terms of team fighting compared to other tanks. I do think he's like not awful though, since he actually does like fine against a lot of AP champions because of how much MR his E gives. That you can just stack Spear Visage or like build one, I mean, and like you can like usually 1v1 most AP champs, but that's usually not enough to like make it a good pick.
So where would you put him, Alphari?
I'd put him B.
What about the other two?
It's
I
like-
would put him B as well.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like itemization's too easy against him. You're gonna go Dawn Shield, and then you're gonna go Spectre's Cael, and then his Q poke doesn't even do anything anymore. And what does he do if you can't poke you with Q?
Fair enough.
Nothing
I'm
really.
fine with that. Next one we have Trundle, a champion. A lot of you guys have played a lot. I think all of you maybe. I'm not sure about Bwipo if you played him a lot, but I know
I
the
played
other
him
two
on
have.
my Smurf.
Yeah, basically the attack speed loss is a huge thing for Trundle, I feel like. But other than that, he can still serve the purpose of like this tank destroyer, split pusher, because he still like outscales other tanks in terms of split pushing. But Bramble West can be a problem if you go the lifesteal route.
So does he actually
Um,
destroy them now though?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure right now because I haven't played too much of it. We'll need to test it a bit more. But
Like I would just assume he loses to the tanks. Like I feel like he
think-
lost his purpose.
I think mid late game he's like still strong against tanks, but he definitely got nerfed early game.
Yeah.
With being unable to take offensive masteries and runes. It kind of seems like you have to just like survive laning or something like this. You can't really just like rush Tiamat and just bully constantly. At least that's what I assume. And he's like still okay in the tanks, like mid late game team fighting, but he's pretty slow now.
He slowed down too much for me.
He also slowed down too much for me, especially in this meta where so much TP plays, the games end sooner, there's so many plays. I feel like he doesn't make enough plays, he doesn't have enough TP pressure. Like I might put him B tier, but I wouldn't put him higher than it personally. What do you guys think?
I actually
I
probably
can see
like
him
B
in A.
plus or something, maybe A.
I
Still
just
think he has like this purpose of tank killing, which is
pretty much like as long as tanks are good, I think Trundle will be
Yeah.
like up there with them.
I would
Even if
probably
just his ultimate, he's still going to like just his ultimate.
Yeah,
and
even
Kayle
if
is
you don't
strong.
win the lane, like you are gonna provide a lot later on in team fights against tanks because you can just make them squishy and targets to focus. While with pillar you can negate enemy carries to attack.
I would put him A since there are so many like tanks in S at the moment, and Trundle's like one of the best, if not the best, top laners against tanks. So even though he got nerfed, he's still good in the current meta probably.
I can live with that. I can live with that. Next one we have got a champion that is very new. Or not new, but reworked. I think he's decently fun to play. His ultimate is kind of hilarious, but I don't know how good he is after the patch. I think he's alright.
I think with press the attack, he can deal a substantial amount of damage if he manages to find you isolated. But I think the biggest problem I have is if he doesn't have a matchup where he can connect his E, I don't think he deals enough damage to get you into ult range like almost ever.
Mhm.
And even in matchups where he can connect his E, most champions up in the tiers can just dodge it or just play around it somehow. I think he has a lot of potential as a bully. I haven't played him enough or seen of him enough, but 350 range is a bitch.
Sure.
I think like further getting removed just hurts him so much. Like before, I thought he's like one of the strongest champions, but now he doesn't really have any room page that I feel good about going. Like before, he'd go further and you're gonna stack it up super fast for your W, but there's like no good alternative anymore. It feels like, so I don't like it that much anymore.
Yeah, actually with like press the attack, you can stack it up really fast as well, but it's still way worse than Fervor, I feel like too. They considered him one of the best as well before, but nowadays I don't even see like Urgot players anymore.
Does
So he
W-
probably fell off a lot.
Does W like proc press the
Yeah,
attack?
it does.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay, so maybe it's not as bad as I thought, but
But it's still only 12%
Fervor.
versus Fervor,
Yeah.
which was ridiculously strong, right? So
yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think if you can pop press the attack and then get him behind you so you can get all your legs, you can pretty much destroy somebody, just the way he used to. But if you don't get that, you don't get the E, the connect on E, you're not going to kill anything.
I think he's still strong for like 1v1, so
For sure.
it's pretty hard to all in this guy because he's most likely gonna win the trade,
Mhm.
even with like a lower tier keystone than he used to have.
I can see that. Where would you guys put him on the list?
I would say A.
I'm partial to A as well.
Yeah, he seems better than a lot of the champions on B, so I think A is fine.
I'm okay with A. No problems with that. Next we have a champion both of you guys have spammed so much. Don't really see him as much anymore. What do you guys think of this champion now?
I mean, further nerf hurts him a lot as well, I feel, but he still has pressed the attack, and he should still have like good matchups against Cho Gath, Maokai, Shen. So I feel like he should still be an S, but I'm not like 100% sure after further got nerfed.
Yeah, same with me. I haven't played him too much either lately, so I'm not sure how well he scales up or like does in the laning phase. But removing Fervor definitely hurts a lot of these champions that relied on it before, and I think Nar is one of them.
If he could make up from the loss of attack speed, I think he would be insane with Grasp. But because going into Resolve means you don't get any attack speed, means he doesn't, I don't know, he just has no source of attack speed in the early game, means that for me, he's at best A tier.
I put him as a decent A personally. I think he's still good. He's still got his plays. It's nice to have a ranged tank, I think, which you don't really normally have. But I don't think he's good enough for S anymore.
Okay, but yeah, like a higher tier A then,
For sure, he's up there with Jarvan.
because I think he's definitely close to like being an S tier.
What do you think, Alphari?
I think that's fair enough. Further nerf hurt him a lot. Well, I'm not sure if it hurt him a lot. It definitely hurt him a bit, and at the same time, like the other S tier champions got buffed apart from Jayce, which is like still good into Gnar. So I can see Gnar being a high A, if not an S.
Next one's Fiora. What do you guys think about this lady with her sword?
I mean, I don't really see it working that much against basically every champion in S. Like Back exists and further got removed, which again hurts Fiora. And even like champions in B, there are like some of them which will just destroy Fiora, like Ganon, Jax, probably like Papi and Pantheon as well can do like fine in the Fiora too, if not good. So I think it's just hard to justify picking it when Brambleback exists and Fervor got nerfed. Like, sure, he has like a pretty good spike at like 2 items or 3 items if you go Triforce Sterax, but it's hard to get there, and games are just a lot faster as well.
I agree with
Yeah, I
that.
agree.
Pretty
I think
much. It's go on.
I would put her as a low B at highest. I think she's really weak. I think she even loses to a lot of the B champs. She works against like Norless obviously and those kind of champions, but I don't think she's good enough for A. I don't know if you guys like her as an A. Maybe you do. And if people
No,
are
I think she's B as well.
was it Grass?
I mean, does
She
press
was.
the attack increase her true damage?
No.
No, it doesn't.
Then yeah, it's just useless. She's loss of fervor is going to kill her true damage.
The only thing I saw working on her was Grasp from the people I've seen.
Yeah,
That's even
and that
shitty.
means you get no attack speed, no AD, which
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
sucks. Kleptomancy maybe?
Get some money quickly.
Try and bank through an early game?
Yeah, you can actually try that and hope you get some cash and reach
Exactly.
item power spikes faster.
Pretty much.
So maybe she could work if you become a money whore. And just
I
get
mean,
rich
if you
quickly.
go to the casino, maybe.
Alright, next we have Riven, which one of the star players from EU used to love Huni, who was playing in EU. He played a lot of Riven. What do you guys think of Riven now?
I mean, it got buffed, I guess, with Electrocute, and yeah, I guess it got like a slight buff, but at the same time, I don't think it's enough. I can't see it doing well against any champion apart from maybe Gangplank, but then he can also just go Grasp and have a shit ton of health too. So I don't think Riven is particularly great. I feel like there are other champs that fit the niche of. Actually, I think really got a niche. She's just generally not very good, apart from maybe like getting a cheese killer 6 and maybe like Black Cleaver stacking, if that's actually like really good. But aside from that, I don't see it being good.
Yeah, same. I don't consider her too high right now. And I actually didn't consider her even before the patch as like one of the top laners. And she definitely struggles into most of the S tiers, so I would probably put her in like B as well.
I think she has the same tricks Aurelia does. She just deals a little more burst damage, a little less sustained damage, and she's more slippery.
Mhm.
Other than that, if you're amazing at her and you're playing against someone that doesn't fully understand how much burst she can provide, you can blow someone out of the laning phase and snowball off that. But that requires a really cheesy lethality build, and I don't think that's viable.
Alright. Next we have Lucian. Personally, I think he's absolutely useless. He still have a decent win reaction compared to the other ones, like 47%. But I don't think he belongs in the top lane. He's a very low pick rate as well, under 1%. And I just think he's useless. What do you guys think?
I think he can be played against Gangplank. Like a lot of these like weird top laners have like low percents, I think can work against Gangplank because he's kind of like Camille in that his lane phase kind of sucks, but like mid late game he is obviously really strong, and champions like Lucian can abuse that pretty well. But aside from like being picked in the Gangplank, I don't feel like he can have a spot. And then if you're picking him in the Gangplank, you have to like decide whether picking Lucian is better than picking Rumble or Jayce.
Yeah, and probably not. I think those champions are just better into Gangplank. But he can definitely have like a place against Gangplank only as a counter pick. But
Maybe
not
they can.
blind pickable or anything.
What do you think?
Maybe into
Bwipo?
Gnar too, but I don't
Yeah.
think people blind pick Gnar anymore either.
Yeah, I just think he's lost his purpose. Did he even have one? I don't know. Like,
Well, some people play in LCS.
you
I
can
think,
you can tilt a GP player by picking Illusion into GP, but that's about it, I think.
So would you guys put him on the list or just kill him? Off it?
I'll probably put him B.
Yeah.
I'd put
I
him
think
B.
his lane
I
phase
think,
is like solid enough, and
Yeah.
he has like a small niche versus Gangplank.
Alright, next we have Rumble, a champion you guys like a lot. What do you think of Rumble?
I think
I would
he's
put it-
definitely just say.
I would put it S tier. Like he's probably the best AP champion for a long time in top lane, and he got like another buff this patch with like Airy. I feel it's like really strong. Probably going to nerf soon, but at least while it's like not nerfed, he's gonna have an even stronger early game, and yeah, he just like has pressure in the every matchup.
I think Roman can have a spot in S tier. I think she's very hard to play, but that's the only thing. Like, you have to play it really well also around the team. But if you do that, he definitely deserves a spot up there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also think that like the lack of base MR is a huge contribution to like Rumble's lane dominance lately, because he deals more damage since you don't have MR until your first back. So even against tanks, he's bigger bully right now. He absolutely destroys picks like GP early game. So you can play around him and snowball his lane as well. I would definitely consider him as an S tier.
I think if Airy gets nerfed, it'll hurt him a little bit, but I think Arcane Comet can be a fine substitution. Maybe even go Electrocute. I don't think so. I think Comet will be what's going to be run on him, but as long as Comet isn't completely terrible on him, which it isn't.
It's actually pretty good too.
Yeah, then one thing to note is I think Flat Pen got a little worse. So once people start actually building MR, and you don't get enough of a lead, that your Flat Pen's going to suck a little more, but it's not enough to push him out of S tier. He's still more than good.
Alright, sweet. Next time we have our lovely Renekton that a lot of us have played a lot. We all have history with him. I think he's kind of on the weak side now, sadly. Do any of you guys still play him, and do you guys like him?
I feel
Not
like
too much.
Renekton is like the champion hurt the most by further getting removed. He just took a dip and doesn't really feel like he can pick it and snowball in probably any matchup anymore.
Yeah, that's
In
just his
SL,
problem.
I mean.
I think he took a nerf by the further thing, but also I think the press attack is really nice because you can instant proc it with 1W.
Yeah.
So
But it's attack speed.
I think he's nice for shorter trades now, but he's worse for longer trades, which is his problem.
And you're also like extremely squishy if you go the precision route.
Yeah.
It's like it gives you attack speed, no AD, which is also like a problem. Like I feel the grasp would be good on him again if it gave you some form of damage, which it doesn't. It gives you straight HP, which just isn't good enough. I mean, if press the attack somehow pulls through for him, maybe. But I don't think it will.
Alright, so where would you guys put him on the list if you let him on? I assume you will.
Yeah,
I'll put him B.
Yeah, I guess B as well.
I'm cool with B here. He's not that good anymore. He only really works against B champions anyways. Next we have Trundle, the one massive right hand for whatever reason. Nobody knows why, but he got a big right hand. What do you guys think of this split pushing monster?
I mean, what do you even go on him?
Probably press the attack.
Press the attack,
Yeah.
lethal tempo, or something like that. I mean, I guess you go press the attack on him, but how good is that really? Is my question. I don't think he's ever been a champion that I've been like, yeah, this is most definitely something I'm considering to pick. I feel like if Trundle is good, he has the same problems Fiora does, but he doesn't have the same tools Fiora does to survive the early game, nor to win later on. So I think it just sucks.
I think he's in the bad spot as well right now. Probably like weaker top laner.
I think he's a lower B tier. I think he does have a spot because he can somewhat survive lane and so on. He can still split push, he can still be annoying. And he's decent against people that are not used to deal with him, but I don't think he's good enough.
Sure.
You guys agree with that, or would you leave him off the list?
I mean, it's Trundle.
I think he has a place in the list, like lower
Sure.
B tier.
Alright.
I think so too.
Next on we have our favorite doggy who stacks a lot of Qs. Do any of you guys play doggy, and do you think he's good or bad?
I mean, maybe he's like still work against Maokai, but at the same time, I think tanks got like a bit buffed, so it should be easy to set up dives, and junglers will have more damage going electrocute. So you should be able to abuse Nasus like more, as opposed to a few practices ago when people were picking Nasus into Maokai, and that's like the only real matchup I can see it not getting destroyed in. So I would probably say he's like B at best. He takes like a long time to scale, and he just loses every matchup.
I agree with that. I think he's a high B, but still a B in my opinion.
Really? Like, I don't know. It's just I think phase rush is a bit cheesy on him. doesn't make him tanky at all, which means he's really squishy and it's free kill pretty much.
Yeah, especially like the S and A tier champions, he's struggling a lot, especially if they are ranged as well.
Yeah.
If you go grasp, I feel like you're just useless for too long. Like you're not even going to be able to kill Maokai because you don't have the movement speed that Storm Raiders used to give you. So like you have to kind of pray to God you make it through lane with phase rush, which I don't think you should be allowed to. That's how squishy you will be.
Alright, we're running out of spots. Do you think any of the last champions we have deserves to be on the list? And which ones do you think deserves to be on the list?
Yasuo
for the
sure.
B tier. I think Yasuo.
Yeah, I think Yasuo and possibly Galio.
I think Ryze actually as well.
I think Ryze and Galio, yeah.
I mean, I have a knack for Darius. He can be there. If Garen's there, Darius can be there for me, for sure. I mean, I'm just saying. It's like, I think... I think Darius is a better version of Garen, so if you want to put Garen there, I'm going to have to put my bro Darius there too. But Yasuo for sure. Like, Yasuo actually has its use in Tanar.
I agree. I think Yasuo's
for sure.
Decent. I think Ryze could work as well.
Yeah, I actually think Ryze with Air is one of the hardest lane bullies right now. I played him a few games myself. I have to say he pretty much destroys every matchup. And since you can go with stopwatch, commencing stopwatch, after 6 minutes you are basically ungankable by the jungler for like at least one time.
Oh yeah, you just stopwatch and ulti outright. That's broken actually.
Yeah, and you also have mana flow ban, so your mana problems aren't going to be that as much of a problem.
So I would actually put Ryze into A tier, even though he has like a really low win rate, but I think he has a lot of potential.
I think that's
it would be A tier.
Yeah, I think
I can see it.
Win rate is skill.
Like the thing is also Ryze is probably the hardest champion to play, at least. Like his win rate always sucks, but he still played at pro level, right? So he's obviously very good, at least in mid lane. And I think he can also.
Yeah, and you can also like flex pick him. That's a huge factor as well.
I just think the problem is you have to be really good on the champion. So most people will not be able to pull him off. But if you can pull him off, he's good enough. Is there any of the champions you'd switch out with any of the left champions you have? Like the ones we have left is, I'll just name them. We have Darius, Aatrox, Illaoi, Fizz, Vayne, Echo, and Galio.
I would put Galio over like any tank can be.
Yeah.
Go for sure.
Would you put him over Garen? Like, who's the weakest one in B, do you think? I think Garen or Mundo. I probably think Mundo, actually.
Or Kayle, maybe.
Mord takes the cake
I think
there
Kael's
for me.
okay. Who do you guys think?
I mean, you put Galio over Mundo for me. If you're going to replace a tank.
I think so.
I mean, he does suck, but not that bad.
What about Darius? Does he deserve a spot? I think Darius
over Garen, I'd say.
is better than Garen, yeah. That's what I think. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's definitely like an upgrade, Garen.
Illaoi is not, like, Illaoi can't be unplayable, is she? Like, maybe she is.
I think Illaoi is pretty unplayable.
Like, with phase rush, is she that bad? Too squishy? I don't know.
think it's a worse version.
Yeah, I don't think she's in too good spot right now.
Like, who would you pick her against? If you actually think about who do you actually pick against, where she would be good.
Maokai used to be the one, right? That's where you would.
Yeah, it used to be, but
now.
Now it's
Maokai is a bit broken right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the problem though. I just feel like Maokai is just disgusting. Like like, you can't poke him and you can't all in him.
Yeah, and he's probably gonna win more than once anyways. The most
like
champions.
he's just disgusting right now.
Like I just think Illaoi lost the purpose, right? Because he doesn't work against any champions right now. I think.
Sure. I mean, maybe Black Cleaver stacking? No, not even that.
Enemies just build Bramble back or Bramble Vest.
Yeah, I guess. Rest in peace.
Pretty much.
I mean, Vayne has a pretty high play rate there, but is Vayne good into any of these tanks? Not really.
Probably not so much.
Right. Anyways, guys, I'd like to thank you guys all for coming on. Unless you have more to add to this, do you have anything else to add to the list? This is good now. I think it's good personally. I think we did a good job.
It's good as well.
Sure, I think it's fine.
Alright, before we stop, the one thing I'd love you guys to do is I would love you guys to plug your social medias, because I know for a fact that Alphari started streaming. He started actually streaming today. He streamed today. And then Vizicsacsi, you stream in Hungarian, I think, if I'm not wrong. I don't know if you stream English as well from time to time.
Sometimes do English as well.
All right, and
like
Bwipo?
once at a time.
I haven't been streaming in the past few days.
All
I
right,
don't
but you
think
do
I will
stream
either.
or never? Or?
I mean, I used to, but yeah, why not? I might turn on my stream to try and some meme testing for
Well,
memes.
It's just because I know a lot of the people out there would love to watch you guys, right? Like a lot of people probably watch Alphari already. A lot of Hungarians watch Vizicsacsi. I've seen that stream. You have over 1,000 viewers last time I checked, at least. So
Yeah.
a lot of people love you guys. Would love to see more of you guys. Actually, I hope you guys do more content for the community because the people just love you guys, right? So they want to see more from you guys. I hope you guys had fun and
Yeah,
enjoyed
hopefully in the future.
it.
Just stick to watching these guys.
Did you guys have fun doing the tier list?
Ooh,
I
right.
think
Yeah, I think it
They
was
went-
good.
That's sweet.
pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's
Mhm.
it's common sense sort of though, right? Like fervor gets nerfed, a lot of the fervor users go down on the list unless you got a new better keystone. It's the biggest thing I see people underestimating though. And for example, is we rated Jarvan A tier because he doesn't get the 15 AD anymore. You forget that he got 9 base AD for free, which means that in reality he loses 6 AD, which is
true.
not
Yeah, but
nearly
so
as
do other
much.
champions.
Yeah, I think you just lose to other champions though. But
I don't know about. Well, it's fair.
still, I think it was fun. I think it's good, and it was nice having you guys on. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for inviting.
It's good.
Thanks.